So now you went back to school to learn more of the psychology behind the eating, which is probably what I really needed help on. So what is the difference? Like when someone thinks I'm going to a nutritionist versus a
I'm a psychological nutritionist.
Psychological
nutritionist. But I mean, I think that they're so vastly different. Like when somebody goes to see a nutritionist, which there's nothing wrong with, but I would actually never encourage somebody to go see a nutritionist if they have any history of eating disorders at all, because I think it can just make everything so much worse.
But don't you think, like, if anyone is seeing a nutritionist, usually it's because I'm overweight, I need to lose weight, I'm too thin, I need to gain weight. I mean, unless it's like from a real illness, right? Like perhaps it's I've been diagnosed with cancer and I need to eat a little bit better.
Yeah. Or like,
but most people do have some type of psychological reasoning to going, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and that's actually like why I kind of came out of that field and pursued further education, so I can really help people, because we can't ignore the like nutrition stuff. Like I can't tell you, yes, you can eat chocolate bars all day and you'll be not overweight. Like of course, right? But if we all actually know what's healthy and what's not, like nobody, I mean, there is maybe a population of people that are just like, there's so much information, right? So it gets confusing. Do we follow high carb, low carb, paleo, whatever, you know?
Yes.
And so being able to clarify that I think is important. But the other key here is like, okay, if we know what's healthy and what's not, like why do we keep engaging in self-sabotage, right? And you said it so perfectly. You were like, if I'm thinking about the A, which by the way, I'm also an overachiever, and I like mostly work with overachievers because it's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
It's the exact, because food is not the problem. Food is just the coping mechanism.
It's our coping mechanism for wanting to be perfect.
Exactly.
And fearing that we're not going to be loved, right?
And the interesting thing here is that when you learn more about like what motivates human behavior, right? Like what's the motivation behind overconsumption of food? And really what motivates human behavior is like when our daily behaviors match our deepest beliefs about ourselves. So if you're sitting there and you're like, I'm a failure, I'm not getting the A, whatever, then like your behaviors are gonna match that failure mentality. This is why when people look in the mirror and they're like, I'm fat, it doesn't motivate them to go and do something about it, right?
That's
it just
true.
makes them feel shitty about themselves, and then if they feel
I may as well
about,
just give up and cry.
Exactly, and then their behaviors are they're gonna need coping mechanisms, right? And so it's so not about what you're eating, what you're not eating. It's about like how do you feel about yourself, and then can you really love yourself so much that you actually just treat yourself well naturally? And that
sounds like a lot of work. Like I'm like already exhausted. I'm like, oh, like I can only imagine the typical person who comes to see you, right? They think what most people want is the blue magic pill,
100%.
right? We all want. I want to go to the nutritionist and them to tell me exactly what to eat. Like, so I did see a nutritionist once. You know, when I was seeing if I could go to this clinic or not. And then they would tell me, well, for your body, this is what you should be eating. I was so meticulous about getting that exactly right that became the obsession. And like, yes, I was eating food now, so that's a plus. But like it was, you know, Laura, you should be having 5 grains in a day. You better be damn sure I had 5 and no more. And like 7 fruits and vegetables. And like I measured everything. I weighed all my food. So it's just like another way. It's just another obsession that kind of comes out of it. And so I feel like when people come to you, they want something specific. Like, right? Like, tell me what to eat. It's like, you hear it all the time now. It's like, is it goji berries? Should I just be having goji berries all the time and that's going to save me? Oh, now it's mushrooms and now it's cocoa and now it's... How do you deal with that when someone comes in? Like, because now you're going to tell them there's no blue magic pill. And instead, we have to start from the beginning, which is loving yourself. That to me is like a lifelong journey.
It is, for sure. And also then that really separates from my target audience versus somebody who just like might not be ready to work with me. And that's okay. Like not everybody's going to be in this space where they're going to be so tired of their own crap. Sorry, I don't know if I can swear.
Oh,
but, like,
yes, you can.
So tired of their own shit that they need that deeper healing, right? And because that's really what this is. And I can't make somebody love themselves fully. I know if I fully love myself, right? Of course it is a journey, but we can get somebody to a place where they're no longer engaging in self-sabotage. And that is really like what I do with clients. Like it's really teaching them that, you know, when they learn to love themselves, they don't need to sabotage with food. And there is no meal plan. Like I can't tell you what to eat. I need to reteach your body how to listen to its own cues. Like,
oh God.
It's, you know, though, but it's so like,
this is like, no, we're going to go to the gym and you're just going to work out every day. Right? Like it's really taking it back to basics.
In a way. But I also think that like, because of this huge like epidemic really of like dieting industry and all this garbage, which by the way, diets have a 98% fail rate. Like they're not effective. Like, so what they're really doing is they're really teaching your body not to listen to its true hunger and full signals, because if you're always following a plan, you're not really listening to the body. And like, I have a baby, like right, she's 9 months old, and I cannot overfeed the girl. Like when she is full, 9 months old. I do, yeah. When she's done, right? Yeah. So we're actually all born with that.
We have it, and then we learn out of it.
Exactly. So my job is to really like reteach your body how to do that, and then also now we do the psychological component, and like if hunger is not the problem, eating is not the solution. So how do we retrain the brain not to go into those like unhealthy coping mechanisms?
So someone comes in, like how would someone know that they need help?
Oh, I think, like, yeah. So my main target audience is people who identify with being a food addict, people who identify with a binge eater, people who identify with emotional eating. If you have like 5 to 10 pounds to lose, you're not my target audience. Like I'm working with people who are like, I'm a slave to food. I'm a prisoner of food. I can't stop over consuming.